Just got this JSR Gallant or Galil rifle. Basically, I couldn't find any video on zeroing or how to actually zero the Galil using the front sight. There's a million and one reviews of the rifle out there. There's building vids, different things like that. But there isn't one video that I have found that addresses actually how to zero the Galil using the Galil front sight. So that's hopefully what I'm going to try to address in this vid here. As far as I can tell, the IDF zeroed their Galils at 250 yards. 250 meters. However, for your average American shooter, most people that I know can't even get a range that shoots that far. So what I was going to zero it is at 100 meters. That should be good enough to put some rounds on targets and stuff like that at that distance. There's a really good video that CAA does. The guy was a lieutenant colonel in the IDF and in charge of their shooting program for about 15 years. He gives like a 3 or 4 part video and explaining the different zeros. The different zeros are different depending on barrel length, the actual round you're using, and a bunch of different factors. He does a really good job explaining things. I really found it to be useful. I want to preface that the JSR version compared to the IMI Galil, it's the barrel length is the same, but the original Galil has a 1 in 12 twist. The JSR has a 1 in 9, which basically it can stabilize and handle the heavier grain 223, 5.56 rounds. Plus the trigger on the JSR it's pretty nice. It's at 4.5 to 5 pound trigger. In the literature I got from JSR on the rifle, basically they test fire them on a 12-inch by 24-inch steel plate. If the sights hit, if the rifle hits at that distance, then they're basically sent out. It's enough to get you on paper, roughly, but it's not going to be enough to really, to do a course, do any shooting with it. Now, it's not a precision rifle. You're going to be lucky if you get anywhere from a 1 to 4 inch group at 100 meters, which is 109.4 yards. Let's start at the back of the rifle. You're going to have the rear aperture. You're going to have 3 sights. 3 different apertures. You're going to have your night, which it used to have tritium in it, but it's expired. You don't have to worry about that one. You're going to have your 500 meter aperture right here, and your 300 meter aperture, which is what you're going to use. It's got a 3 on it, if you can see that. I don't know. This is what you're going to have to use to zero your gun. Now this is talking about adjusting for elevation. All your adjustments, your elevation, and your windage is going to be done on the front sight. This is just from the manual. Basically, you set your rear sight at 300, which I just went over. In order to correct sight deviation, the sight edge must be adjusted in the direction of the deviation, i.e. mean hit point is above the target. Adjust edge upwards. All right, this chart right here is probably the most useful thing out of the manual. Basically, I did some rough conversions here from millimeters to inches. These are just rough. They're not exact. Okay, this column right here talks about the windage. Okay, these are your windage values. This column right here is for your elevation. First off, first thing you have to decide is whether you want to do 100 meter zero or a 25 meter zero. This part down here just explains the parabolic arc and what it's doing at the various distances. So as an example, I chose to do 100 meter zero. For elevation, what I did was I had to move my front sight clockwise which basically moves the sight down, but it raises my group. If I want my my 3-round group, if I want to raise it 1.57 inches, what I would do is I would turn my front sight clockwise 1/4 of a turn. One full turn that would raise my group up approximately 6 inches. If I want to move my elevation, if I turn my front sight using the AK tool, if I want to turn it counterclockwise, it moves my sight up, but it lowers my group. If I want to lower my group, say 6 inches, I would rotate the front sight counterclockwise one full turn, and that would lower my group approximately 6 inches. Okay, I'm going to do the elevation on the front sight using a regular AK tool, sight tool. I'm putting this end over the sight. Press down till it's snug, and then I'm going to turn it. On a 25 meter zero, if I fired 3 rounds and I wanted to raise my group of 3 rounds, I would turn it one full turn to raise it up a little over 1.5 inches. All right, I'm going to talk about adjusting windage. Basically, the first thing you need to do is figure out which distance you're going to zero the rifle, either 100 meters or 25 meters. Next thing, pick your target. I used about a 6-inch diameter bullseye target, and I put it at 50 meters. Okay, you can also, I did it at 50 because basically the basic zero on the rifle from JSR was a rough 50 meter zero. So what I did, I put my rear sight on 3, fired 3 rounds at the 6-inch diameter bullseye target at 50 meters, which was 55 yards. Then I found out that I had 3 rounds at about the 7 o'clock position. I needed to center it to bring it over about 2.5 inches to the right. So how I adjusted the windage was, the right screw, I needed to move my group left 2.5 inches. So what I did was I came over to the right side screw. I loosened it probably 4 or 5 clicks. Then I went to the left-hand side screw. So I moved it over counterclockwise, 4 clicks. They're not positive clicks, but you can feel the clicks, as you turn. Don't just start turning it, don't crank down too much on it. Just do it a little bit at a time and you'll feel the clicks. Then what I did after I made the adjustment to the right side and lock and tighten it clockwise and to lock that adjustment in. Then repeat your 3 rounds. I fired 3 more rounds and it had shifted over to the right. Or I'm sorry, 2.5 inches. So basically, whatever side, whichever direction you need to move your group, you're going to go to the opposite side first, loosen it, then adjust the other side for the actual adjustment. And then go back to the opposite side and tighten it, and then fire another group and test it. This is about 55-yard bowling pin. After the 50-yard bowling pin, I moved to the 100. These were my last grouping. This was my second to last grouping before I made the adjustment, bringing the front sight down.